Okay, yeah, here it is working. It's actually a minor fix. You just have to, excuse me, I'm opening the wrong thing. We'll fix it. We'll do that as well. You just have to add with credentials to all of your commands. You just comma, add a colon, add a curly braces with credentials, and it will send the credentials along, and you can get it. But you'll note, watch what happens when I try to click anything else. We need to do them with credentials everywhere. Now, if I go here and I just keep adding with credentials, we're good, right? But there's a simpler, easy way to do it, and I'm going to do it right now. I'm going to go ng generate interceptor. I'm going to say credential. You'll see what I do in a second. All I'm going to do is add this with credentials to the interceptor. And by doing that, I essentially will have added with credentials to every single output, and I can remove it from these guys. All right, so we go to the interceptor. First, we want to go to app modules. We're going to need to make sure we have that as a provider. We're going to do that in a minute. Trying to remember what I named it. Oh yeah, here it is. As observable, it's going to intercept every request, HTTP request, and it's going to just return it. So this by itself does nothing. But what we actually want to do is request equals request dot clone, and then we're going to add, oops, I had thought I had it in my what's called, I did not. I'm going to add interceptor. And you go, what does that do? It clones the request that's coming through, and then it tags it adds with credentials to the request. And you go, that can't be all it does. That is all it does. Now we have it working. So I'm going to go ahead and run it again. Oh, I don't want to do that. It's going to fail anyway, but sorry. We have one more thing to do, but this is half the game, so to speak. About half the game. We'll spend a few minutes doing some other things. Yay. We already have it loaded, so we're going to go to ng serve. And we're going to remove one of the credentials. I'm going to just check my old credential check. Yep, exactly what I did before. Nothing special. You're just cloning the request. You can do some fancy things like add special tokens, like modify requests as they come by, all sorts of fun stuff. Do I recommend doing any of that? Not really, no. I believe we have to actually add it to our app modules. I don't believe we're done, but that is one step along the way. I think, do I have it? No, I did not grab it, unfortunately. Mark. I did not grab it. I grabbed everything else, but I did not grab that. Fortunately, so we may have to Google that real quickly. But here we go. So you see, it's all working, right? What we're going to do is I'm going to go back to the page, and if I go to detail, see, it's not actually working. We did everything, but we didn't actually tie the interceptor into the actual code. That's the one thing I forgot to do. Add interceptor in Angular, right? And we did it. There's just one little flaw here. We did the interceptor, and you can see it uses the intercept, but we actually have to tie it. Nope, that's not useful. One of the guides would be a little bit better. There we go. I don't care. You can review this if you like. This one's using authentication. This is a very bad idea. Do not use authorization tokens. Okay, great. We're going to just back out of that. We'll go to a different page. I apologize. Stop scrolling because it wanted me to whatchamacallit. In the provider section of your app, whatchamacallit, you have imports your declaration. You're going to add a provider. And that is what we forgot. Sorry, that was the one area that I forgot. We have to actually add it to the app module. And we're just going to did I put that in the wrong place? Nope, I didn't quite do it in the wrong place, but I did it in the wrong place. So this is functioning. The problem is we need to, come on, Ruth. We need to actually put it in an object form. Our interceptor we named was actually credential interceptor. So we go back to app module and we name it interceptor. It's still an HTTP interceptor. All the other things are good. Oops. Yeah, so we definitely did something wrong here. Oh yeah. This should stop here. This is a mistake. This is the end of the providers array, as you can see, which is what we did wrong. And we add import to that, and we should be good. Essentially, this is going to say that we're going to add an interceptor and we're going to add it to as a provider. That's all we have to do, and it automatically does everything else that it needs to do. We did the interceptor. This interceptor is for adding headers and stuff like that. We don't really care about that. You can format responses. You can do all sorts of stuff. Most of the time, we just use headers for this. Oh yeah, I stopped running. We're going to go ahead and run it again. Apologize. We actually don't have a lot of code today, by the way. We did create a new component. We did create an interceptor. The interceptor is not actually strictly necessary. If you just go ahead and, is this the employee? Yeah, this is the employee, so it's the wrong one. If you strictly go ahead and go in all of your user services and just add with credentials to all of your, what's called the interceptor is never necessary. The guard is going to be necessary, which something we'll show you in a minute, because it will make your life a lot easier. Okay. Let's look at employee real quick. Did I put the app module there by accident? Employee services, we logged in guard, provide interceptors. We did that already. Oh, I didn't quite do this the same way. I feel like anytime you do something different, right? Anytime you do something different, app routing modules, it's app modules. We want to go ahead and change it. And now it doesn't like it because it was never correct. It was never correct. So it did not do its work. Because it should just simply allow us to do this. Now we don't need to worry about it. It's just going to work everywhere. And as you can see, our pages essentially all just magically work. Now we do have one other issues. Well, we do have to do log out yet, but we do have one other issue we're going to talk about briefly. Going to log in. And if you remember, oh, it doesn't want me to go to login, does it? Yeah, we go to login. If you remember, if you type the wrong password, or a password that doesn't exist, you try to log in, it actually logs me out, which is the only way to log out. We shouldn't get to this page, right? We still shouldn't get to this page, but if you notice, it's actually an error page. I'm trying to get there. Apologize. I'm going a little quickly in my head. So it's actually an error page. So if you look at the console, it's actually error page. So you can actually go here, excuse me, and go here, and then go to brain farting. I apologize. Student list, student details. Go to student component. Student. Excuse me. Student list component, and anywhere here, I could do an error check. Forget all students. I could do it here where I just check to see if local storage. If I don't remember already. I failed to remember. User, right? If user is in local store or session storage or whatever, we'll actually switch it around in a minute. But yeah, student list. Yeah. Keep brain farting. If user's in local storage, right? We can go ahead and get the user and do something with the user. But if the user is not, if user is not, we actually put not in. Well, can always go like this. There's probably a better way to do this, to say not in, but if the user's not in, we don't need to go to this page. We don't need to do anything. You know what we can do? We need the router. Router dot navigates. Navigates by URL, and we're just going to go. Login. Burp, 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 burp. And so the second we do that, we get it compiled successfully. We want to make sure we get it compiled successfully. We refresh the page. Oh, I think I actually have to get it to refresh the component here. It's already initialized. In this case, it won't do it because it's already initialized, unfortunately. So what I can do is close the page. Open my browser, look back up, open localhost, and you see it's still going to the page, right? So it thinks that it's still there, right? I'm still logged in, right? Well, a couple of reasons. One is we never washed the logout out. And you go, what do you mean? So we have a situation now in which the local storage thinks we're logged in. And you go, wait, what? So just quick point. You added you added into session storage and local storage, right? You at no point wiped it out. So we should actually wipe it out. So what should we do? Right? We could just simply put this dot, or excuse me, I don't need to do that. When we do this, we can just clear it here. This is not the best way to go. We're going to actually fix this better. And we'll see this in a minute. Okay. So what now when I log out, when I log into a bad login, it does in fact wipe it out. And so when I try to go to localhost, it sends me to login. Okay. So you got to remember, if you're using the local storage, it has to be cleared somewhere. Usually we do that with the logout method, and we'll do that in just a minute. But I did want to show you the difference between the two. Okay. So let's log in. Okay, I'm going to open a new, what's call it, and I'm going to go localhost 4200. Big. I'm also logged in a different tab. If I'm going to click on a link and go open a new window. Ta-da! Local storage is allowing this to just be wherever I am and I'm logged in. The session is fine with that. So totally fine. If I open up in a different browser, then it will be a different session. So we typically use session storage because with local storage, if I close the browser completely and reopen it, local storage will actually work. It is in local storage. It is not in session storage. Session storage would have been closed. So we typically do not use session storage. We typically do not do, wrong application. We typically do not use local storage. Okay. Selection, what is it? Isn't there a quick way to do this? Toggle line comments. We typically do not do local storage. Simply put, because it doesn't do some of the things we do. The local storage is local to the browser, so we don't want to do anything with that. So go back to our page. This seems pretty kind of a pain in the butt for our student list. Excuse me, to always add this check. And yes, there is a better way to do it. Essentially with our check, I'm going to log in just so we can see the pages again. But for our check, what do we want to ensure? We want to ensure, right? Click OK, click never, whatever. We want to ensure a couple things. We want to ensure that all the pages that have to be loaded, this page, for example, shouldn't load at all if it's you're not logged in. This page should not load at all if you're not logged in. Edit page, the add page, right? None of these pages should work at all if you're not logged in. So we're going to actually create a guard, and the guard is actually really simple to do. But we're going to call it the auth guard. And all we're going to do is use it to check what pages you're on. And essentially, it's going to simply do our work for us. We're going to just create a guard, which is going to be able to, we have some particular APIs to implement. And our guard, the one we want to use is can activate. You saw this activated route in many of these components that gets a route is considered activated. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a guard, right? And what we're going to do is, in this case, the guard's always going to return true, which means it's always going to allow it, right? Which is not what we want to do. What do we want to do? Well, we're going to do this. If session storage, sorry, if user in session storage return true, else return false. Done. That's it. Yes, that is it. Okay, we don't use the session storage, we use local storage, and that is that. All right, now we actually have to add it to our routes. I'm going to just check the other guy real quick. See if I have to add it into the module at any point. I do not. It is in here somewhere. Oh yeah, it is a provider, so we do have to add as a provider. Okay. Thought so, but I wasn't sure. So we're just going to add as a provider here. What do we call our guard? Off guard, right? Ew, shouldn't have named it off guard probably. There we go. And that is going to add that as a provider. And then we're going to go into our routing modules, and I'm going to double check what I need to do with the routing modules. As you can tell, I'm clearly a little shy here, gun shy. So we're going to come back here to our guards, to our routing module. Sorry. Routing modules. I'm a little gun shy because I earlier did an issue. Can activate, and we're going to base it on our auth guard. Of course, that's going to go ahead and import my Yes, this is just another thing that you can put in, and every place. Now, when I do this, every place where I want to make sure it's authorized before they allow them to do it, they have to do it. One thing of particular note you want to avoid, you don't want to use an interceptor for this, because essentially if you set it, then it'll even intercept the login stuff, which is very, very bad. You don't want you want the login to work no matter what. But all these other guys, at this point, I don't know, am I logged in? I don't remember if I'm logged in. Let's go back to login. And localhost, oh yeah, because I'm not actually running, am I? So I'm going to go to ng-serve. And this is, by the way, 99% of it. We're going to do one other thing. We're going to just use the admin portion of it to do something special to our list. And that is it. We're not really going to do a whole bunch of other things. We did break add because now you need an advisor. But we're going to actually clean that up too. Maybe if we have time. I don't know. I'd like to, but I don't want to run too long. All right. So now we have localhost 4200. You see we're still logged in. We go to edit, whatever. So go to login. And I'm going to fail to log in. Right. So now, right. But now watch what happens when I go to add student. Right. Sends to here. Wait. I screwed it up. Yes, I did, but I did intentionally. So I wanted to show you what the auth guard looks like for the logged in guard here. Okay. It returns false, but it also navigates to the right place because you need to do that in the auth guard, because otherwise it just doesn't load and it keeps you where you are. So you want to actually make sure that if it returns false, that you're actually navigating, and you have to navigate by URL. Oops. Yeah, I think I need the constructor. Let me just grab the constructor from the other one. Yep. Yeah, I did some funky stuff before, but I'm going to show you, but I'm not going to actually do it this time because we're actually essentially kind of running late. We're running out of time to some extent. Okay. So there's our constructor. I'm going to update the imports. And did I do this wrong? I think it needs this. Okay, so now the router navigates. So now, and we want to double check it. Now you go to any page that requires login, such as add student, and it actually sends you to login if you're not logged in, including the main page, right? Because now that login thing will always send you here. Pretty awesome, right? Yay! That's pretty useful. So I want to talk about a couple other things. In this other code, I created a mechanism, although it's removed here. I created a mechanism to actually call the user service and then use the server to check to see if it's logged in. You can do that, but it's actually a complicated mechanism to actually get the result successfully in a guard. The second thing is every time you go from page to page to page, it's going to have to keep hitting the server. That's not necessary. We could implement sort of a timer so that if the timer exceeds a certain value, then we go ahead and check to see if it's logged in at the server. However, that's usually not necessary. We usually use session storage or local storage to do most of the work. But if you wanted to implement something along the lines of you have 10 seconds to you're logged in for 30 seconds. If you don't go to a page within 30 seconds, you're logged out. We log you out. That you can totally do that by just implementing this and then having a timer. And then when the timer expires, you're done. Right? Pretty simple. Okay, so what are we going to do? What do we have left to do? Two things. We're essentially done, and I'm going to stop the recording. But I want to talk about a couple things. So first of all, we've left off advisor completely. When we log in, Mike, we log in. I don't care. Don't save the password. You go to edit. If I click edit student, this will fail because we now have a notion of advisor. And as a result, this is just simply isn't going to work. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to put in code that if it checks to see if you're an admin, it's going to allow this field to exist as a field. Otherwise, it's going to, what's the word? Otherwise, it's simply going to, I'm trying to think of the word. I can't do it. Otherwise, it's simply just going to fill in your actual value, which is pretty simple, and not let you change it. The other thing we can do too is we could have a list. With the list, we're going to go and see an advisor list if you're an admin and not an advisor list. So this is pretty simple. But add and delete, edit and delete, we'll do those as well for what's called. We do still need to do logout. We have not, but that's actually really simple. I want to show you that now. Let's just do it now. So one way to do this is we did in a login component, as you can see, we cleared the session. We should not do that, but we're going to, but we're not, this should not be the way you have to log out, is to go back to the login component, right? What we're actually going to do is we're going to go to the user service, and I'm going to go to log out. And before I make the call, I'm going to go session store. I'm going to clear the session storage right here. As soon as you log out, boom. Then what I'm going to do is go to student list. I'm only going to do it in student list because we, time wise, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another link down here. Ding, ding, ding. That's going to, it's going to be like this guy. That's what we're really trying to do here. And ding, 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 right? Instead of delete student, I'm going to be log out, right? Don't need to do anything. We're going to say user service dot log out. And we're going to see how to do that in just a minute, right? And let's see if it has a logout. I don't know. It might not, right? Nope. User service doesn't exist on student list. Yes, I'm aware it doesn't exist yet. So then we go into student list component, and instead of private, I'm going to say public user service, and it's going to be a user service. Of course, the second I do that, it's going to make me import it. And I think I called it user service, by the way. I don't actually have to create a method. I could just simply call it public. And by doing that, I forgot the component. By doing that, this should in fact work. Yay! And of course, it is compiled successfully. And on the list of students, we should see a button, a link down below. Oh, here it is. There's your link. That's a bad one. I don't love it. We click it with, we clicked it. Unfortunately, it didn't do anything. Wonder why not. Oh, first of all, okay. D. Second of all, ding, ding, ding. Okay. Boom. Refresh the page, loads the page. Click. And I'm doing it wrong. What am I doing wrong here? Student list component, user service, log out. I made it public. Public user service. We have the import. Okay, screw it. Watch this. Log out. And then I think it auto directs, but I'm going to go ahead and direct it. Oh, that's what's not happening. Yep. Watch this. Shoot. The user service clears the sessions, returns the logout, but never actually refreshes the page. Had it refreshed the page, oh, you're still logged in. Okay, so not quite doing it. All right. All right, here we go. So we're going to go ahead and do the logout. And yeah, we have a couple issues. All right. All right, where's the student list component? Here it is. And we're going to navigate to login. All right, that's going to make our student list component HTML be more like on click, log out, right? Just like this. Yay. Now, I think I'm going to get rid of that and just go back to text, right? Because it doesn't look good anyway. We'll go back to text and go back to list of students. What am I doing differently here? Ah, one's a class button, one is not. Also, why is this a TD? I actually don't want them to be separated by a whatchamacallit. Yes. Okay, so it is mousing over. Logout does in fact do what it wants to do now. Yay. This is actually acting pretty strangely. I don't know, and I don't care. But it does in fact work now. That's the important part. I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording. We do have a couple more things to do. Like I said, just play with admin. But we do, in fact, if I'm not mistaken, 367. We do have one more day to play around with stuff. So if I run out of time, I do have time to play with some advanced topics and talk about some things that we can just do on 12.5. But I really like to add it today. So we'll see. But let's see how long I've actually been going on so far. All right. Thank you, guys.